Most people go along on autopilot. Admittedly, I became burnt out and I was over anxious and I was not getting good sleep and I was reacting instead of responding. I became much more balanced. I became a much happier person. I became more calm. My definition of mindfulness is very simple. It is awareness.
Hello, hello, welcome to Mindset to Results. Today, our guest is Pamela Dangelmaier, and she is an amazing guest today and very passionate about helping people with mindfulness. She successfully went from having her startup business for 20 years and now transition to being successful life coach, helping business owners, entrepreneurs to succeed and grow their businesses with ease and without stress and overwhelm. Hi, Pamela.
Hello, Elena. How are you today?
Great to meet you. I'm looking forward for our episode. And
Yes.
as we discussed before, you are very passionate in mindfulness. So tell us a little bit what mindfulness mean to you and how you
Hmm.
discovered the power of it.
Okay, thank you. Well, that is a great question to start off with. Um, my definition of mindfulness is very simple. It is awareness. I can define that. Those two words are interchangeable for me, mindfulness and being aware. And what that really essentially means is not only being aware of what's going on with me personally, in terms of my emotions, what I'm saying, how I'm behaving and responding to the world, but also to the world, to be aware of what's going on in my environment. And it sounds like a simple concept, and it really is, but it's quite amazing how few people actually incorporate mindfulness into their day-to-day being. And how I came to be involved in mindfulness is, as you mentioned, I ran for over 20 years a very successful startup business here in Canada. And it involved me being in situations where a lot of pressure was put on me to perform, to do a number of different tasks at once. Any entrepreneur will know what that's like. It's like juggling. You're trying to keep all the balls in the air and also to keep yourself calm and responsive. And I succumbed to that at one point and became almost, well, admittedly, I became burnt out. And I was over anxious and I was not getting good sleep and I was reacting instead of responding. And I discovered the path out of that was learning about mindfulness and applying the techniques and tools of mindfulness to myself. Once I did that, I became much more balanced. I became a much happier person. I became more calm. I worked better with my employees and with my people that I was involved with in my business. I was able to speak clearer. I was more grounded. And so I realized that if it worked for me, I definitely wanted to help other people incorporate those tools as well so that it could work for them.
Yeah, thank you very much. So here is the question: how people can identify are they mindful or not mindful? Like one what you already mentioned. Then
Hmm.
when people react instead of responding, it can be one of those signs. Yes, like
Yes.
if they can see, like, if they react and not taking pause and respond, it can be already a sign that maybe they are not mindful. But let's speak a
Yes.
little more about this so people understand exactly what we are speaking about. So,
Hmm.
how they can become more mindful, or how they can understand that they need to become more mindful to be more
Hmm.
effective.
I think one of the first steps is when people might recognize that they need or want to be more mindful is exactly that. If they look back at situations, particularly when they're in a stressful situation, if they are reacting in what they perceive to be perhaps a negative way, a quick response, a habitual reply, rather than a thoughtful, more pause imposed response, then that is the first clue that maybe they can benefit from some mindful techniques. Often it has to do, quite frankly, with personal regret. It's those times when, after we've had a conversation, say, with a supplier or an employee or even our spouse or a friend, and afterwards we think, gosh, I wish I could have said that differently. Now thinking back on it, I perhaps should have said this, or I could have replied in this way, or maybe I could have found a better solution to that rather than just quickly responding the way I normally do. Those are the first clues that, as I said, perhaps a mindful technique would have been more helpful and beneficial, not only to yourself, but to whoever you're dealing with.
Yes, thank you so much. And another question is, because I think it is very related, how would you say confidence connected to mindfulness? Because,
Ah,
yes, so what is
yes.
connection between confidence and mindfulness?
That is actually a great example, because I believe that when you become more mindful, and again, when you become more aware of what is going on within you, within your emotions, within the words that you're saying, how you're responding to others, when you become more aware of it, your self-knowledge increases. And once we have a good understanding of who we are, what our talents are, what we're good at, what we're not so good at, how we speak, whether our words are landing with other people, automatically our confidence grows because we can, quite frankly, rely on ourselves, whatever the situation might be. And I think particularly for entrepreneurs who are starting out on building businesses and creating businesses on new ideas, for business women in particular, confidence is something that we all can benefit from and can use as a good, strong foundation for expressing our ideas and getting the job done, whatever that job might be.
Yes, very good. So there is the direct correlation between confidence and mindfulness. More confident
Yes,
you are, more you grounded, more you
yes,
love yourself, more you know yourself, more you respect yourself, more boundaries you have. So this is all will make you more conscious, because you will not just quickly reply something just for make the client happy. Yes, and not
exactly.
just to do something fast because you want to fill that gap which you don't know, and you just look for what to say or how to fill that gap. But if you
Hmm.
really love yourself and you respect yourself, you know yourself, and you accept yourself as you are, right? And
Hmm.
not thinking, "Oh, I am not enough," or what if I don't know this, what client will think about me. Yes, so all those questions asked when we are not confident, right? And when we
Yes,
accept that it is okay if I don't know something, it is okay to
yes.
have pause and think,
Hmm.
right? So this is
Exactly.
yeah, so this is will help in mindfulness.
Hmm.
Another question,
Hmm.
really, like mindfulness, it is also related to consciousness. Yes, consciousness is when people start living consciously. It means
Yes.
that understanding, observing, and taking thinking.
Hmm.
I like this statistics, very interesting statistic, which I heard first time from my mentor Bob Proctor, and this then another time I read it in the book written by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. So in that book, he mentioned very interesting statistic,
Hmm.
and it was written more than 100 years ago, and I believe that this statistic is the same nowadays.
Hmm.
So he said that 2% of people think, 3% of people think that they think, and 95% of people rather die than think. Yes, so I think that this
Yes.
is exactly what is related to mindfulness, because in that book
Mm-hmm.
he also spoke about hypnotic state, and he
Mm-hmm.
described that most of people live in hypnotic state. They
Mm-hmm.
are operating based on their on autopilot programs, which were programmed right in their young age, and it is all in their subconscious mind what operates on autopilot. That is why so many people react faster than they
Yeah.
even think, because to
Yes.
think they need time.
Yes.
You have to take time and think, and then find what to answer. But in that hypnotic state, more people just operating by those automated programs. That is why reaction is so fast, because you don't need to think in order to react.
Yes.
So let's
Yes.
speak a little bit about this. What do you think?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And I love that you use that term of autopilot. I often use that with my clients. And I even mentioned it 2 years ago. I did a TEDx talk called The Power, basically, the power of silence. And in that talk, I mention that most people go along on autopilot, but truly, what the best way to the most successful way, the most, if you want to say, personally profitable way to live is to allow yourself to be guided by your inner pilot as opposed to autopilot. When we allow ourselves to be buffeted around by the winds of change and life as general, because life is change, constant change, we are rudderless. We don't have a way of guiding ourselves through difficult times. And we don't allow ourselves enough time, as you say, to think. And so I'm a huge proponent of pausing. I'm also a huge proponent of silence. And when we give ourselves an opportunity to be silent, and what I mean by that is not that we have to cloister ourselves away in some cave in Burma or sit on a beach in Thailand with our legs crossed burning incense. It really is just taking moments out of your day to sit quietly or to walk quietly without outer distractions coming into your world. In other words, when you go for a walk, take your earbud out. Just allow yourself to be walking. Find a moment at home where you can just be silent, where you can meditate on what is going on inside you without judgment, without trying to label anything. And when we do that, we allow space for this inner wisdom, this inner knowing, this inner pilot to rise to the surface. And that is a wonderful way to allow ourselves to be guided by that, as opposed to autopilot, as you mentioned. So it's an opportunity to, if you want to say, to allow ourselves to think, to really be in the moment. And these are the ways that we build that mindfulness muscle so that when we go out into the world and are confronted with things that challenge us, we have that strength of pause, we have that strength of inner knowing, and as we already spoke about, that gives us the confidence to simply be with clients, with employees, and to sometimes also admit that we don't know all the answers. I think when we're in conversations with people and they're challenging us, it's much better to be more human and sometimes to admit that you don't know the answers to everything, that you don't know, but that you will, if need be, find the answers and that you will get back to that person and be able to reply to them rather than trying to fill the space with lots of words and excuses and justifications and on and on. Sometimes it's better to just pause and say, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find it out.
Yes, and that is totally okay not to know all the answers, and it will
Yes,
be even much better result from such communication, because the person will see that you are honest and you are transparent, and
yes,
this kind of communication will create and build more trust. So
Yes,
later, when you come with the answer, the person will more like and trust you because you
absolutely.
are honest and you
Hmm.
don't create something just to impress. Because
Exactly.
yes,
Hmm.
because communication happens at the subconscious level. It is not what we say, but if when people start to feel the gap, there's something, they think that they are helping situation, but actually it is on the contrary because the person feels something is wrong. Yes,
Yes.
and this doesn't help to create trust and good relations.
Yes, there's so much that's unsaid. In fact, a lot of communication is not what's said, it's what's not said. It's the spaces that we allow for in a conversation. It's the eye to eye contact that we have. And if we're on the phone, then it's the tone of your voice, it's the fall of the words, it's the words that you choose to say and the words that you choose not to say. And that is a huge part of communication that a lot of people um, don't understand. And once they do understand, it's hugely powerful because then they can use that to communicate better with the person that they're communicating with.
Yeah, so true. Because some people think that they have to speak a lot and speak more in order to
Yes.
impress, right? So, as a fact, it becomes like it is feel that the person just want to impress. And on
Hmm.
the contrary, when the person know value what he has, he doesn't even need to impress because the value which he has, even if it is not so many words, but right words with the right pauses and right tone, it will create more engagement and attraction than vice versa.
Yes, absolutely. And that is all part, see, all that we're talking about here, Lena, is mindfulness. This is being aware. It's being aware, as I said at the very beginning, of what you're feeling, how you're experiencing the other person, the words that you're saying, the words, the actual words that you're choosing to say, the speed in which you're saying it, the volume in which you're saying it. All of this becomes sort of a natural way of communicating once you become aware.
Yes, and all this starts from self-love, self-respect, and acceptance who you are, and
Yeah.
respecting who you are, and knowing that the person who you are already is enough. Yes, and
Yes.
that you have that value already, and you give that value to people, and if there is something more than necessary, you accept that situation and you just know that this is what I give and I want to find more, so I will put time, I will find more, and I will come and again in the same manner of confidence, being calm, grounded, sharing with people what you have and who you are. And this approach will build that foundation for trust, like, and future um, business or whatever these conversations are for.
Absolutely. And listening, that's another thing that's very important when it comes to mindful, if we're talking about mindful communication. It is a true gift to give the other person. A lot of times what happens in say regular, if you want to say regular communication, is somebody says something, the other person says something, and it's this back and forth, but neither is truly listening to the other. And it is a huge gift, a huge mindful gift to really listen to the other person, to to accept them, to where they're at, what they're saying, allow that to land with you. And before you start to think about how you're going to reply or what you're going to say, is simply to be there for the other person, to listen to them. And when we do that, it again, as you mentioned earlier, creates that bond, creates that level of trust, that level of confidence that this person is truly engaged in what I'm saying. They're listening to me, and I appreciate that. And then it allows for a softening and also an opening, and then real true communication can happen. But a lot of times people want to talk over top of the other person. They want to get their point across. They want to say it quickly, and I need to say this, and you need to hear what I have to say. And unfortunately, those types of conversations usually do not land well with the other party. And so I encourage my clients to open up, to listen, to soften, and really be aware of what the other person is saying before responding in whatever way or whatever it is that they want to bring across to the other person.
Yes, it is so true that when we listen first, this is we give that person space, right? We give
Hmm.
it space, and that person shares what they want to share, and what
Hmm.
is the most important, what we give them is
Hmm.
that feeling that they are heard. Yes, because
Yes.
that attention, that space, because we live in such a busy world,
Hmm.
like highway, all this, so much information, like highway with 6 lines or cars going
Yes.
different, and this is what is in many people had, that there is so much things happening on that
Hmm.
in many cases even husband and wife, they don't have time just to sit and listen
Hmm.
to each
Yes.
other, because so many things to do, and children and work and
Yes.
parents. So when we
Hmm.
give that space to person, so they feel like a gift, they feel that they're
Yes.
heard, that somebody gave them attention, right, and listen to
Hmm.
them. So this already creates very good start to relations, yes, to this open conversation, and then person himself will feel like, oh, you listen to me, so now I want to listen to you, right? So then
Yes.
when you start speaking, the person is more open because he
Hmm.
already appreciates for the time which you gave him.
Hmm. Hmm. That is exactly it. And it's so rare nowadays, as you mentioned, because we are living in a time that is moving very, very quickly. And a lot of us feel like we can't catch up, like we're falling behind in some way. And so we try harder to keep pace with all that is going on. And those moments, those conversations that we have, whether they're personal or whether they're in the realm of business, those conversations that slow down and open up and allow for a safe place for someone to truly communicate, they land so well. It is such a powerful, if you want to call it, a powerful tool to use, but it's beneficial not only for yourself, but also the other person. And it builds such a good, strong relationship that is rare nowadays. So I really encourage people to try it. It feels sometimes uncomfortable at first because we always want to talk so quickly, but it is a wonderful way to create space, as you said, in this crowded world that we live in.
Yes, and that is why maybe we have one mouth and two ears.
Good point. Yes,
So we can listen more and
absolutely.
speak less. And on
That
the
is
other,
true.
yes, and on the other hand, also, when we listen to person, we
Hmm.
give ourselves opportunity to know this person more. And so
Yeah.
if we have something to offer, we can understand even better what how we can help this person more when we listen and know what is
Hmm.
his task or problem, so what he wants to solve. So it will
Exactly.
create
Yeah.
more mindful conversation and more probability that he will resonate with this when
Yes.
adjust our offer to what we heard from him.
Right. In it's more result orientated. It really is. It's first of all building that ground base for a relationship that is mutually beneficial and respectful. Because when you really listen to someone, you're saying to them in very clear, unspoken text, I respect you. I want to listen to what you have to say because what you're saying is important to me. And that is huge. It's huge in this world. And so I really, as I said, I love to do that in a conversation with people, like with yourself, really listening to what you're saying to me because it's important. And it gives me pause for thinking and saying, yes, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. And we have here a mutual basis so that we can build on this conversation to help each other. And that is so awesome. And it really is so very rare in this day and age. And that's why it's such a special gift to be able to do that.
Yes, yes. So let's continue to speaking about mindfulness. It
Hmm.
goes deeper and deeper. So my next question is how mindfulness is related to competition.
Mm. Yes. That's a really particularly in the business world, we feel often people feel that they are competing against their fellow employees, trying to get a step ahead, competing against other companies or businesses that are doing the same as what you're doing. And there are great swaths of emotions that are involved in that, from jealousy to feeling not good enough, to all of these things that are compounded by those situations. And again, mindfulness allows us to see and acknowledge what we are feeling. And one of the important things about mindfulness, truly when we practice it, is the essence of non-judgment. In other words, if I'm feeling uncomfortable because, say, a fellow employee has gotten a promotion and I haven't, for instance, simply to acknowledge it, to recognize it, and say, this makes me feel uncomfortable, or I don't like the fact that they got a promotion and I didn't. When we are mindful, we're aware of those emotions and we can then work with them. And instead of being stuck on them like Velcro, we can actually peel down the layers and get to the reasons why potentially we feel that way, rather than compounding it with more feelings, more negative feelings. So, yes, competition is a big part of the world that we live in, particularly in the business world. And I think it is healthier to look at competition in terms of what I can do myself to improve how I respond, behave, um, what I bring to my job, what kind of talents I can build on, as opposed to feeling that others are other and I'm myself, that we're somehow separate, that somehow together we form whatever it might be, a company, a startup, a business, a cooperation, whatever situation you find yourself in. But when you're mindful, you are aware of the emotions that are driving you, and then you can begin to question them and perhaps alter them in some way. As we said, rather than reacting how you normally react, you might be able to respond in a better, more healthy way.
Yes, so true. And I would say that it all comes to company culture because
Hmm.
great teams, they don't compete, they create. Yeah, so this
Yes.
is mindset, and this is what I also learned from Bob Proctor. First time I heard that you don't need to compete with anybody because you are so
Hmm.
unique and there is nobody like you. So
Hmm.
it comes again back to the question how well you know yourself and how you
Hmm.
love yourself. Because
Yeah.
if you love yourself, you know and accept, you will not compete with anybody. You will not feel negative if somebody else get promoted, but you
Hmm.
will celebrate that person. Yes, and this ability to be happy for somebody else win, it
Hmm.
gives that state of creating something even bigger. So when you don't
Yes.
think about competing, you think what I can create that will make the existing system obsolete. So when
Hmm.
you think at that level of creating something even better, this is how you will always will grow, right? And how you will think about yourself first. How can I be better
Hmm.
person every day? How I can learn something new every day? How can I do
Hmm.
something better every day? So when you
Hmm.
start having that kind of attitude, you will be very successful, and you will never feel that you are competing with somebody. You will celebrate others' wins, and other people also will celebrate you.
Hmm. Yeah. And I really appreciate that you said that, that celebration of others, because as soon as we celebrate others, we take that competition factor out of the equation. Then it becomes, as you said, we are a team. We're supporting one another, and we're joyous in the fact that they are successful in what they are doing. And that doesn't negate your level of success. In fact, when we celebrate others, we lift ourselves up as well. And that is a really important thing to remember, is to celebrate when others do well and that their talents are recognized and that they contribute to the whole. And it's a, as you said, it's a team effort. Even if it's only two people, it's a team effort.
Yes,
Yeah.
because when someone wins, it doesn't mean that you will not have also your success, because it is like abundance. Abundance is abundant. There are no limits.
Hmm.
So it is only the way how we approach things and what attitude we have towards ourselves and towards life. And if people
Yes.
just used to think that things are limited, if somebody gets that piece of cake, I will get less. Yeah, but it is not about success. It is not about uh, growth. It is not about abundance and wealth.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
when somebody becomes wealthy, it means that you can do too, right? You can see what other people
Hmm.
do good, and you can
Hmm.
learn from other people, and you can always recreate your personality, your identity, and become better and better. So if you continue doing this,
Hmm.
it will be a day when you will create something big. You will achieve your big dreams, and you don't
Hmm.
need to put somebody down to grow up. You can grow together with
Absolutely.
other people, grow, and
Hmm.
be in the community of people who believe in you, who win with you, who celebrate your wins, who encourage you to dream big and believe that your dream is possible, and find this community for yourself. This is where you will grow even faster.
Absolutely. And when you support others, inevitably they will support you. It's a give and take. And it grows naturally. I agree with that. And that has all to do with feeling confident about yourself, about your talents, what you're, as I said earlier, what you're really good at, building on those things, recognizing perhaps the things that you're not good at. We can't all be great at everything. That's not our path in life. We are each one of us unique and wonderful, beautiful and powerful. And it's that awareness of where we stand out for ourselves and what we can contribute to this world. And when we recognize that, then there really is no stopping us. And there really is no competition because we are each one of us on our own path. And when we recognize that, then we can help each other along our paths rather than trying to block other people from going along their paths and me surging forward. That's not what it's about. And ultimately, we've seen it time and time again. That's not how people become truly successful. How they become successful is when they themselves recognize their own personal power and then they use that to lift themselves up, but at the same time to lift others up. It's a shared experience.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
I am totally agree. So let's discuss a last topic because we can go
Sure.
on and on, but just yes. So let's speak about anxiety and stress. Yeah,
Hmm.
because nowadays, especially people who have big goals, who want to achieve, who don't want to accept average or don't want to be just mediocre, right? So
Hmm.
they want to achieve something in this life, and often they are stressed, they want to do more, they face many challenges, and sometimes they burn out on and
Hmm.
maybe have anxiety. So how mindfulness help people not to burn out, how to help to
Hmm.
prevent anxiety, to prevent insomnia, and keep happy when we build something big, and still we stay happy and don't let those challenges to knock us down.
That's such a prominent question nowadays because so many people are feeling anxious, not only in their place of work, but in their personal relationships. When they look at what they call the state of the world, we can become overwhelmed very, very quickly. And our contact within social media platforms, iPhones and devices keep us connected, but not necessarily in the best way. So, what I say to people, particularly when they're feeling burnt out, when they're feeling stressed, is to really look for tools that can help you to balance out your life and to recreate for you a strong foundation in which you feel safe, in which you feel secure, in which you can bring calmness and peacefulness into your life because that is the opposite of feeling stressed. Basic mindfulness programs can help with that. There are many out there. There are one-on-one coaching sessions that you can have with people. There are courses that you can take, self-guided courses or with groups. But one of the most important things that you can do when you are feeling stressed and burnt out is to place self-care at the top of your list. You must put that at the top of your list. If you do not, you will find yourself in the situation that you're in, feeling stressed, anxious, burnt out. So whatever self-care means for you, what self-care, I'll give you an example. What self-care means for me is I will take time every day to meditate. By meditate, I simply mean I'm taking time every day to be quiet with myself, to find a quiet spot where I can sit, where I can close my eyes, where I can focus on my breath. And I simply do that for 15, 20, 25 minutes a day. I don't have a set, I have to do it for this amount of time. That is very helpful to me. I also do my very best to incorporate walking into my day, to get up from my desk, to go outside, to breathe the air, to experience nature, wherever it might be, in a busy downtown situation or out in the country, wherever I find myself. These are ways that I take care of me. And once I take care of me, I'm much, much better at recognizing the things that are quote unquote stressing me out. I become more aware. So if I find myself, some people are doom scrolling on my phone, all of a sudden that thought comes up, is this healthy for you? Is this the best use of your time? Is this making you feel more anxious? And if it is, because I'm mindful and aware, then I simply stop doing it. And I do something else that makes me feel better. I get up, I make a cup of tea, I have a conversation with a fellow employee, or I call a relative and have a conversation. Something that feels better as opposed to more stressful. And that is how mindfulness begins to seep into our everyday and allows us to make better, more healthy, less stressful and anxious choices.
Thank you so much, Pamela. We discussed mindfulness today, and I'm sure that our listeners learned a lot good lessons from you and from this conversation. So, if there is something very, very important that you would like to share before we wrap up this episode, like one
Mhm.
thing, what it would be?
I would say probably the most important thing, truly, at this point in our global history, is to recognize that you have the power to make positive changes in your life. You have the power to choose between what you feel is healthy for you and what is not healthy for you. And as soon as you slow down, take a moment for yourself, pause, you will recognize it. And then go with it. Take that time for yourself. Turn your phone off. Step outside. Take a deep breath and recognize that you are a unique, wonderful, powerful, positive being and that you have much to contribute to this world. And I hope that you do because we will all be the better for it.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for being an amazing guest at our podcast show. And I'm looking forward to see you again in our future episodes. And we will speak about how to turn stress into strength. And that will be the
Great.
topic of our next one.
Thank you very much, Elena. This conversation has been wonderful, and I really appreciate all of the insight and input that you brought to it. It was fabulous. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Looking forward to see you again.